That's too much sauce. Protect, police, the plane with. That's too much sauce. Hermes in the aim. That's too much sauce. They let me know before I was famous. I had too much sauce.
Good evening and welcome to the Ike Taylor Show podcast.
That's too much
I'm
sauce.
John Harris with two-time Super Bowl champion Ike Taylor of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thank you for listening to the airnetwork.net. Ike, what's going on, man?
Mr. John, man, I like the intro, man. You got too much sauce.
I got too much sauce. Well, I don't think I'm ready to break out a demo yet, but I appreciate the compliment. I'll keep working on that and get better each week as we go along here. Ike, and for first before I even get into it, you want to follow Ike Taylor on Twitter at Ike_swagging There's a lot of them out there, about 200,000 strong. You want to follow Ike anyway. You want to follow him on the Ike Taylor Show podcast on the airnetwork.net. Ike, we got a lot of stuff to get in here this week. And once again, a lot of it has to do with your Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think you know where I'm going with this right off the bat. One of your teammates, longtime teammates, James Harrison, is in the news again, and not necessarily in a good way, but it's typical James Harrison in the stance that he's taking, the position that he's taken as far as one of several NFL players that are being asked to interview with the NFL or basically run the risk of being suspended for some games this year. Your thoughts, knowing James Harrison as you do, Debo, as you guys know him, your thoughts on this?
Man, is it because he lifted too much weight? Is it because he's been so dominant? Is it because he made a comment a few years back, like if he saw you on the side of the road, what he'll do? Like, is it a personal agenda, or you really do have good information on this guy? That's what I don't get. So I kind of feel like Debo, aka James Harrison, is getting picked on. All you gotta do is watch the guy on his Instagram. Oh, but this is before Instagram, meaning James Harrison, before all this social media, he's been doing this. All James want to do is work. He loves being the strongest. He loves dominating. That's why we call James Harrison, aka Debo, aka Silverback. So he has all these dominant nicknames because the man is that dominant off and on the field. We feel like if Debo walked into the jungle, the animal's going to be scared. So that's just his presence. That's just what he brings to the table, John.
What were the weightlifting sessions like in there with him? Was it a sight to behold? Was it competitive? Did everybody just kind of crowd around and see how much weight this guy could actually lift? What was that like to see that, to experience that, so the work that he puts into it? He has muscles upon muscles in those arms and upper body.
See, what you can't get twisted was Steve McClendon also made a statement and said it's all natural. And Steve McClendon isn't a weak guy, far from being weak. Debo used to lift with Big Steve, and Big Steve McClendon plays defensive tackle. So on that note, it's like, man, y'all really picking on this dude, or y'all really do have information on this guy. If you got information on this guy, it should have been out. Y'all should have been bought that out. So, I mean, it's just kind of sad to see. I don't know if this is a personal agenda with whomever, but all the man do is work, man. That's all he do. But he's been that way since he got in the league. Like, that's what he pride himself on, is being a workaholic.
Let's go beyond the Roger Goodell, James Harrison rivalry, whatever you want to call it. It's been there for a while. Let's move even deeper than that. The Steelers were the only team to vote against the last collective bargaining agreement, which has now become very controversial because now people are saying the players, it's on the players. You guys are the ones that gave the commissioner all this power. Could we even be going back as far as that now? The Steelers were the one team that didn't okay this deal, even though it did go through. Do people just in the NFL office just have long memories? And is that just another factor that you heap on top of some of the things that James Harrison has said about Roger Goodell in the past? And just kind of almost open defiance. You can come. I'll interview you, but you come to my house and I'll interview you. I'll talk to you. You come to my house is basically what James Harrison has told the league. Why don't you guys come to my house?
Yeah, I mean, you can't get mad at the man. I mean, thus far he's done everything you'd have asked him to do. So, I mean, don't get it twisted. The league itself is a monster, meaning, not a lot of people tell them no. They have money for days to back themselves up. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So, I mean, you're dealing with a monster when you talk about the NFL. But on the other hand, I look at it, what kind of evidence do you have on this guy? And if you had that kind of evidence on that guy, why haven't it came out? That's how I look at it.
So what about the CBA? Should we pay attention to that? Should I read anything to that? The CBA, the Steelers, and talk about the mindset a little bit of the Steelers at that time. Why were you guys the only team that went against it and didn't endorse it, didn't support it, didn't vote for it?
Man, we had some good representatives, Jay. Like they saw it. I think it was Ryan Clark, Charlie Batch, like these guys was like, you know what? This is not in our best interest. This ain't leaning towards the players. So, I mean, and at the time, you got them guys and they're the captains of the team. They looking at it like, I can be selfish because I already got the money. Meaning those guys in their prime, like Charlie Batch already had his money. Ryan Clark already had his money. So it's like, you know what? I'm looking at it from a player's perspective. I don't think this is a good idea. So, no, we ain't signing. And when you get like that, and you feel like you don't need to sign, and you really believe what you say. That's how close-knit that locker room is. Like, okay, if y'all say this is a bad idea, we shouldn't sign, we ain't going to sign.
So how do you see this ending? Do you see the suspension? Is that a possibility? Or do you see this cooler heads prevailing, James Harrison kind of acquiescing and being the ultimate company man and following through and doing these interviews? Or is there potential for these suspensions? I mean, this Al Jazeera report, which a lot of people say, the people that were part of the report said it wasn't true. So we're going off a report that some people question the authenticity of it. And now you got several players, including Clay Matthews of Green Bay and Julius Peppers, who could possibly be suspended. Do you see them being suspended if they don't follow through, or do you think cooler heads are going to prevail?
I know one thing about Debo. And he prided himself on not lying. That's what I do know about James Harrison. He prided himself on not being a liar. So him telling the NFL to come meet me at his house is like James Harrison is an old school shake my hand, your word is everything kind of guy. Well, I ain't gonna say kind of guy, that guy. So this ain't no, let me slip you a brown paper bag with some money kind of guy. He's all about pride. You shake my hand, you look me in my eye. I'm not gonna lie to you. You're not gonna lie to me. Your word is your bond kind of guy. I'm sorry, that guy. And we're going to leave that like that.
Well, we'll leave it like that. We'll see. Hopefully, I mean, in the 30, and I'll be honest with you, my last word on this, I think some people from the outside who didn't have the opportunity to work out with James Harrison and watch how dedicated and diligent he is as far as weightlifting, 38 years old, people say, hey, he's got to be getting some help from somewhere. There's no way a 38-year-old guy can do this at this level and be that strong and continue to be that strong without some type of help. So, unfortunately, the way sports is now, and with so many things that have happened with PEDs through the years, and people failing drug tests, and people saying they didn't do something, and later it comes out that they did. Forgive me, but there's a lot of skepticism out there. You know, like people just
no.
They don't believe what their eyes tell them.
I get it, but I mean, if you've been watching the Olympics, you've seen a lot of guys win golds, silvers, and bronze over 30.
Yeah.
And the Olympics probably have one of these most strictest drug policies ever. Like, you can't even take a Tylenol PM. You get tested positive for the Olympics. So I see what they're saying from a fan point of view. But also, I've known the work James Harrison put in from day one. That's how I feel about it. So, I mean, we acting like we asking James Harrison to cover tight ends. Like, all Debo got to do is be stout on the run game, and when it's time to make sacks, force fumbles, big hits, do that. And at 38, that's what he can do. Like, a young James Harrison can go out in the flats and get interceptions and can cover a tight end to some degree, but they're not asking James to do that. So he looks at it like, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I'm as strong, as big as possible at this age for me to be stout against the run game, but also able to bull rush an offensive tackle and get these sacks, force fumbles.
You're listening to the Ike Taylor Show, the Ike Taylor Podcast on theairnetwork.net. I'm John Harris with two-time Super Bowl champion Ike Taylor of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the NFL Network. Ike, we're going to stay on the Steelers, and we're going to look at another former teammate. And we've seen this scenario so many times with the Steelers. Linebacker Lawrence Timmons, he's entering his 10th year. There's been some talk about, will they bring him back? What about a new contract? We've seen this happen a lot with Steeler veterans and contracts. No matter how valuable they've been, no matter how productive they've been, no matter how loyal they've been, a lot of times things don't necessarily go the way people want, fans want, the players want, because the Steelers stick to their guns. How do you see this situation? There's some young linebackers on this team. Lawrence Timmons is the veteran, other than James Harrison amongst linebackers. Will he be able to finish his career here, or do you think he might have to eventually move on?
Yeah, I mean, it's all on what Lawrence Timmons wants as far as like to get paid. When I know it comes down to paying certain people or paying guys, boy, it's a dirty game. It's a dirty game. Because as you get older, they're going to tell you what you can't do or what you haven't been doing. So one thing I know about the Pittsburgh Steelers is they have a recipe they go by as far as like contracts, and they don't budge, and they don't care who it is. They don't care who it is. So what LT is basically what him and his agent are looking for. But on the flip side, you know, they might like a Vince Williams because they felt like a Sean Spence left, you know? So don't get it twisted. If Sean Spence never would have got injured, it wouldn't have been a Ryan Shazier. Because Sean was on his way to starting. Like, that's what it would have been. So you wind up picking up a freakish athlete in the Ryan Shazier from Ohio State. I mean, when he's healthy, he's hell. It's just when he's healthy. So now you got a guy who can pretty much do it all the same in the Vince Williams. What you want to do with a Vince Williams, you don't want to let him go. So eventually you got to make your mind up on what you want to do with Vince. It's just now what you want to do with LT, and for them not to, if they don't sign LT by the end of this year, by the end of this training camp, this is Vince Williams and Ryan Shazier's defense.
Well, here's the reality. Lawrence Timmons was Mike Tomlin's first draft pick as coach in 2007. He's the second oldest and most tenured player on the Steelers defense right now, because as far as starters, James Harrison wasn't always with, he went away for a couple of years with Cincinnati. Okay, on the other side, the Steelers side that they're looking at, he has a salary approaching $9 million and a cap hit of more than $15 million this season. And he was a Pro Bowler. Lawrence Timmons was a Pro Bowler 18 months ago, but he's going to join outside linebacker Jarvis Jones as starters on the defense, who will be free agents after the season's end. We both know with Antonio Brown and all the talk about him getting paid and Le'Veon Bell getting paid or wanting to get paid, there's no way in the world Lawrence Timmons is going to make $9 million next year if he stays. So like you say, it's going to come down to how much does he want to stay here, and how much is he willing to stay here for, because it won't be at that price tag.
He's going to have to take that James Ferrier fourth contract deal.
Yeah.
That 4 for 15, that 4 for 19. That's going to be between 4 to 5 a year.
That ain't that bad. He signed a pretty big deal a few years ago. Lawrence Timmons did. If you want to finish your career with the Steelers, and here's the other deal. A lot of times when players leave the Steelers, the system works so well for them here that it's not always the right fit or the same fit when they go somewhere else. So that's something else that Lawrence Timmons is going to have to look at, is if there's a better price tag out there, there's a better contract out there for me outside of Pittsburgh, but is that a better football situation? Is that a better organization situation? You go away, make a little bit more money, but maybe in a year or two, you're not there on that team anymore. One thing they say you told me about the Steelers a long time ago, Ike, is that you sign your contract 99% of the time, 99 out of 100, you're going to make all that money. It may not be the same amount of money with another team or for that player, but you'll make that money. Whereas if you go to another team, you sign for 3 or 4 more years, you may only get 2 of those years.
Yeah, and I learned that from Casey Hampton, because Big Hamp told me, look, don't get it twisted. You're going to see everybody have big contracts, but these guys having these big contracts, they're going to teams that's not that good. So eventually the second or third year, if the team hasn't carried over into being good, you're going to wind up being the cap casualty, because they're going to say it's your fault and you're making too much money and you ain't helping the team. So that's all he had to tell me was once. It was like, one thing about Pittsburgh is, for the most part, you're going to always be in the playoffs, and you're going to have opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. And it's not going to be as big up front, but in the long run, you're going to make as much money as anybody else who's playing other than 1 or 2 people. And he wasn't lying.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. And I think you said the key thing, Ike, to keep an eye on. If Lawrence Timmons, Steelers veteran linebacker Lawrence Timmons, doesn't sign a new deal before the end of preseason, training camp's over this week, so before the end of preseason, don't necessarily expect him to be back next year. He'll be here this year, but it's unlikely, or the chances are not as favorable that he would return next year. So we'll keep our eye on that and see how that plays itself out. And I remember before the draft, Ike, we talked about a player, a quarterback, who you were extremely high on coming out of college as you work out in Orlando, Florida, with the great Tom Shaw, the speed coach at ESPN Disney. And you told us about this quarterback from Mississippi State who we were doing a show in Pittsburgh, you were trying to kind of help the Steelers to take this guy. You were very high on him, and a lot of America saw him play over the weekend. Dak Prescott from Mississippi State for the Cowboys. The Cowboys lost 28-24, which means nothing in preseason, but Dak Prescott, fourth round pick for Mississippi State, completed 10 of 12 passes for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns with a quarterback rating of 154.5. let's go back over some of the things you raved about this kid just from the training prior to the draft. Why were you so high on him?
John, I be trying to tell people, man, I just use my eye test. I be trying to tell people, man, it's not that hard to figure out who can play ball and who can't. Like, everybody want to come up with these drills and these numbers and how big somebody's hands is, how high they can jump, and all that. I get all that. I understand the process. But by the end of the day, let me watch the tape. Let me watch the tape, because the tape going to tell the story. So I had the opportunity to watch some of Dak Prescott tape at Mississippi State. I had the opportunity to actually work out with this guy, a natural leader. We're not talking about, oh, he's our quarterback, I'm going to anoint him as the leader. No, just a straight-up natural leader. A calm, a poise, a cool in the pocket, just a guy who loves football. And other than that DUI, John, like,
yeah,
I felt like it hurt, but I felt like you was getting a steal from this guy. And you starting to see it. Now, this dude, 230 now. Every bit of 230. If you ain't know the better, he looks like a DA. But, man, just his poise. He understands football, man. He understood going against St. Louis that they had their second team corner on Dez Bryant. So even though a coach might have a play drawn up, what you think he going to do? Man, I like this matchup. Football is all about matchups. So for a rookie to see that and be like, you know what? Yeah, they might have a run play, but I'm going to switch it off because I see the number 2 corner on Dez. I like Dez over anybody. I like Dez over their number 1 corner, let alone their second corner. Hey, Dez, I'm coming to you. I'm just going to throw it up to you. Usually a rookie will go by the book and be like, well, my coach wanted me to throw it to this area, to this guy. I saw this read. I saw cover 3, so I'm going to go to the backside. I saw cover 2, so I'm going to throw it right up the seam in the middle. No. That was like, man, I like this matchup 9 out of 9 times. So this one I'm going to go. And for him to understand that as a rookie, it wasn't a surprise to me because I worked out with him. I was like, oh, yeah, this dude naturally just got it. Well, he just got it.
The talk, and you know what happens in preseason. People get excited. It was one preseason game, so we're not putting him in the Hall of Fame yet or anything like that. He's not replacing Tony Romo, but people in the Dallas are a lot more excited now about the possibility. There was another injury. I think Kellen. Guys, I can't remember the kid's name. Kellen Davis. I forgot the other kid. The quarterback, the backup quarterback, got hurt. There was all this consternation over the Cowboys. We need to go get a backup. We need to get a veteran backup. Lo and behold, Dak Prescott impresses in practice and drills. His first opportunity in a preseason game, he steps up. The Cowboys may have their backup right now. They may not have to go. Kellen Moore. I'm sorry. Kellen Moore is the quarterback.
No, they got their backup, John. Yeah. See, we keep talking about these backups. You know what? We're going to come up with a stat next week to see the records of backups who've been in the league. I promise you, I bet you it's about 100 wins to 400 losses.
That might be too many wins. I don't know if there's that many wins.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you keep talking about a backup. No, you got a starter.
Yeah.
Like, Dak Prescott, man, is a starter.
Yeah.
So you keep wanting to get in a backup, man. Really, all the backups you had in Dallas didn't matter. So every backup you had last year did nothing for you, nothing whatsoever. So you might as well give the young man a shot. This how I know people are gonna be good. The response of their teammates when they're being successful.
Yeah.
So I saw how the sideline responded when he threw them touchdowns. I saw how the offensive lineman responded when he threw them touchdowns. It was you're a natural leader. I like it. I didn't see you at practice doing adversity, and you never threw me under the bus. That's what I saw on the sideline. Like, I ain't see nobody looking that under-eyed, like, oh, man, if he keeps going, he's going to get big-headed, or there he go. Like, it wasn't none of that. It was, good job, let's get it, let's continue to get better. That's what people need to start looking at. They need to start looking at how players look at the player.
You're listening to the Ike Taylor Show podcast on the airnetwork.net. Listening to John Harris and two-time Super Bowl champion Ike Taylor with the Pittsburgh Steelers and NFL Network. And Ike, before we go this week on the podcast, and I tell you what, it's been a blast. I've really enjoyed this one. And the thing I think people, more and more they listen to you, how you break the game down. As a former player, spending years and years in the film room with the great Dick LeBeau and Ray Horton, who's now the coordinator at Cleveland and coordinator at Tennessee, defensive coordinator. And that knowledge is going to come out. So people that listen to this podcast are going to hear. They're going to learn more about the game. They're going to understand what they're looking at more. And it's going to make more sense to them. Just the way you talked about Dak Prescott and the way he's already understanding and seeing the game as a rookie is great knowledge, as people will come to find out as they listen more and more to you on this show. But I want to break one more thing down for people, and I want you to talk as a high-level, world-class athlete. The great Usain Bolt, there's no words to describe him, what he's done, but what some people may not know about you is that one of the reasons why you were drafted in the 4th round, despite playing only 1 year of cornerback at Louisiana Lafayette, is you ran a hand time 4.1840 at your pro day. And that's fast. And I wrote an article in 2009, went down to Lake Buena Vista, Florida, when you were down there with Coach Shaw at ESPN Disney. And at that time, you ran a 4.2640. And I got a quote from Tom Shaw. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to just turn it over to you after that. He said, "We had a speed sign out here. It's a police radar gun they put on city streets," Tom Shaw said. "We were running the 40-yard dash, and Ike ran 26 miles an hour. The speed limit was 25, so Ike could have gotten a ticket for running. You were running 26 miles an hour. Okay, on your best day, could you have given Usain Bolt a run for his money?"
In the 40, yeah.
In the 40.
Other than that 40, every hamstring, every calf muscle, everything is going to rip off the bone. Everything coming out. Everything. You're going to see, it's going to be a YouTube sensation, but it's going to be bad for my body. Like that, a 40, I got a shot, but a 41, a 42, anything other than a 40, everything I got in my body is going to detach.
It's got to be a 40.
It got to be a 40. It damn near got to be a 39. So you got to understand, this guy Usain Bolt, man, like, this is another thing people don't look at. Everybody is running to the line, so they're running the 100. This man is running 105. So while everybody looking to lean and get across with their shoulders or their head, he accelerates through it. So, I mean, from his 50 to the next, to pass the finish line, there's nobody who's running faster than Usain Bolt. Like, everybody's struggling trying to keep up. But yeah, I feel like, you know, just like what y'all hearing in the background, man, the first 40, I got sauce. From that 50 to that finish line, Usain got too much sauce.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Ike Taylor Show podcast. And remember, follow Ike on Twitter at Ike_swagging you. We'll check you out next week.